Okay, cube root is a single factor. This is a single factor multiplied by itself 3 times. Okay, for example, x times x times x equals x cubed. The cube root is just one of them. Okay, so if you were to find the cube root of x cubed, it would just be x. One of those numbers that were the same. So just like squares or square roots, exactly the same idea, except for instead of needing 2, you need 3. All right, so on this table, they have squares here, and then they have cubes. So I'm going to write some of them out. And these you should probably memorize by now. At least the squares you should memorize. Okay, and I'm going to zoom through this a little quickly, so it should be fairly easy. 0 times 0 equals 0. 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 times 2 equals 4, etc. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 6 equals 36. 7 squared equals 49. 8 squared equals 64. 9 times 9 equals 81, etc. You should be able to do this on your own. Okay. 121 and 12 squared equals 144. Those you should probably memorize, at least up to 12. You could probably memorize a little bit further than that, but those are the kind of the standards. And now that we're getting into cubes, these you should probably memorize as well. The first few are easy, and after that, the numbers get a little bit bigger, and they kind of get a little bit trickier to memorize because you don't see them as often, but you should be fairly comfortable with these. So 0 times 0 times 0. That one's always easy, and so is this one. Okay, that's 8. You can say 3 cubed equals 27. 4 cubed equals 64. 5 times 5 times 5 equals 125. And this is where people start to forget or not memorize them as well, just because they're not as common or easily calculated. Okay, 7 cubed, 343. Looks funny. 8 cubed is 512. Okay, 9 cubed is 729. 10 times 10 times 10 equals 1,000. That one's pretty easy. 11 cubed is 1331. And 12 cubed is 1728. Again, those you probably don't memorize. Most of you will probably easily calculate or memorize somewhere around here. 9 is a little weird. You memorize that one, and the other ones are kind of the ones I usually forget at least, and people usually won't recognize right away. But if you see these numbers, you should understand that they are perfect cubes. At least up to here, that's pretty good. Okay, it says the volume of a cube is the length of any edge. So an edge represents the corner, 1, 2. It's got a length of 2 there, multiplied by itself 3 times. So the volume of a cube is equal to the edge times itself 3 times, or edge cubed. Okay, so here, this one's a little bit confusing. It says find the edge length of the cubes. So I feel like they're missing a piece of information here. You can say cube volumes, cube volume, which will be 127, 64, and 125. 127. Oops, I have the wrong space for this, so let's move this over. Cube volume. Okay. Let's move this over here. Cube volume, and then the 1. So 127 64, and then 125. That means each of the side lengths are going to be the square root of 1, which is 1, 3, 4, and 5. And here they're just asking you to calculate it. Cube root of 1 equals 1. Cube root of 27 is 3. Okay, the symbol is exactly the same as square root. Okay, the only difference is now we're going to put a 3 there. Okay, that means I need to find 3 of the same number, which is 4. Okay, you'll use a square root sign. It's actually just a root symbol. Okay, and then 125. I want 3 of the same number, and it'll be 5. Okay, so cube root symbols are the same as square roots, just with a little 3 there. Okay, it says, what is the volume of a cube with the edge length of 5? Okay, so here's my edge. Okay, my edge is 5, so I have a side length of 5. It wants me to find the volume. So edge times edge times edge equals the volume of 125. Edge times edge times edge equals 15.625. That's your volume. Okay. If you need a calculator for this, feel free to use one. It's not a big deal. You are not losing points for using a calculator. Okay. Take a minute, go through questions 2 and 3. Again, we'll skip 4. I'm not too concerned with that right at the moment. Okay. And see what you get. Once you're stuck or when you're ready to check your work, unpause it and see what I came up with and make sure I didn't make any mistakes. Okay. It says the cube root of something equals 5. So what that means is 5 times 5 times 5 will equal 125. This is the number that goes in there, 125. The cube root of 125 is 5. Okay. Same thing here. The cube root of something is 2.5, and they specifically use that because you should already know. But I'm going to write 2.5 cubed is 15.625. And we get 15.625. Okay. For question A, it says x cubed is equal to 27. So x cubed equals 27. That means something times something times something equals 27. That something should be the x. And they have to be all the same number. So the number that works there is going to be 3 times 3, which is 9, times 3 is 27. X cubed equals negative 27. Something times something times something equals negative 27. Well, I know 3 works. That gives me 27. Now, if I make each one of these negatives, does it work? Well, negative times a negative, this becomes positive. Positive times a negative equals a negative. Awesome. So I'm going to say that x equals negative 3. Forgot to write that here. X equals 3. Okay. So we can make a note that any x to an odd number exponent can be a negative solution. Okay, if it's odd. Okay. The next one says x cubed equals 1/8. And again, that's something times something equals 1/8. Now, when you have these numbers, especially fractions, you only have to think of one number at a time. The top number, in this case, is 1. 1 times 1 times 1 makes 1. Think of the bottom number. 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. Okay? Because they are multiplied numerators and denominators, you don't have to think of them together. You can think of them separately. Okay. Cube root of x equals 27. Therefore, the opposite would be 27 times 27 times 27 equals x. Okay, so I'm just going to say x equals 27 cubed. That number is just too big for me to be writing out here. Okay, the cube root of x, that equals negative 27. Again, negative 27 times negative 27 times negative 27 equals x. X equals negative 27 cubed. Cube root of x equals negative 1/8. 1/8 times negative 1/8 times negative 1/8 equals x. X equals negative 1/8. Oops, negative 1/8 cubed. All right, pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory, not super difficult. Okay, this page you can do on your own. I'll do just question number 1 for you. You can do 2, 3, and 4 on your own. It's a lot like what we did before. We were estimating. Okay, they're asking for the cube root of 10. Okay, that I don't know, but I do know the cube root of 27 is 3, and the cube root of 8 is 2. So I know that this is between 2 cubed and 3 cubed. Okay, so it says between which 2 consecutive whole numbers? It's between 2 and 3. So I gotta move this over a little bit. Between 2 and 3. That's where it's at. Okay, I know that because the nearest ones are 27 and 8 as perfect cubes. Go ahead and answer 2, 3, and 4 again to the best of your ability. Use a calculator to guess and check, to estimate, not to type in 10 cube root. Don't do that. Okay. All right, a few minutes have passed. You've given it a try, and you're just checking your work. It says, number 2, which number in part 1 is closer to cube root 10? Well, I know that cube root 8 is closer, okay, is closer to cube root 10 than cube root 27 because there are less numbers between 8 and 10 than 10 and 27. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. It's not really too difficult, okay? Number 3 says, without using a calculator, estimate the value of cube root 10. Okay, cube root 10. I would say probably 2.1, maybe 2.2, and I would just check it, multiply them, okay? So 2.1 cubed is going to be 9.267, and 2.2 cubed is about 10.648, okay? So this one's really close, okay? Now, could I get a little closer? Sure, I could. I'd probably just find the difference between these two. Could I get a little closer? Yes, maybe like 2.15, kind of the halfway point, cubed. Multiply that out on my phone, 9.94. That's even closer, really close, within 600ths. Okay. All right, which is greater, cube root 8 or square root 8? Okay, well, let's just do both. I know cube root 8 because I need 3 numbers, something times something times something. That's 2 times 2 times 2. So the cube root of 8 is 2. Now, if I do the square root of 8, and if you want, you could put a 2 there. There's an assumption that there's a 2 there. Okay, that's something times something equals 8. It's not 4 times 4. Okay, remember, multiplying, not adding. Okay, and if you approximate it, it comes out to about 2.8 times 2.8. Okay, so square root of 8 is 2.8. And this one's going to be bigger. The squares of numbers that are the same will always be bigger than their cube root counterparts because it takes less numbers. Okay, it takes less numbers to get to the same number, to get to the same value. So square root x will, they used the variable n. Square root n will always bigger than cube root n. And that is because both x squared and x cubed will equal the same number, we'll call n, but x squared uses only two numbers opposed to x cubed. X cubed will use another number to get there, so they need a little bit more. Okay. All right, summary. To find the area of a square, so I'm looking for the area of a square given the side length. Well, that's easy. Here's a square. If that's x, the area is equal to side times side. You can also say area is equal to side squared. Okay, to find the volume given the side, so it looks something like this. Okay, x, x, and x. You would say volume is equal to side times side times side, or you can say volume is equal to side cubed. Okay. And the reverse is the same as well. Find the side length, okay, of a square given its area. So this is x squared, this is x. I can say that the square root of the area is equal to a side length, and this time it's giving the volume. I'm going to find the cube root of the volume will give me this side. It's just the reverse. Okay. All right, that takes us to the end. I'll make another video for 3.1, just so it's not one long continuous section. You can take a little breaks.